The fall of the big boys and marked the return of club football, which is now back in full swing. And of course, it was Manchester United and Chelsea that were outclassed, albeit away from home. And of course, you did talk about Linda Caicedo. Another man, a young man, bears that same name, but for a man that was bought for £150 million in advance, I don't think he covered himself in glory at his debut.
Well, you know, I really can't speak myself because obviously my team disappointed themselves, not me.
The performance made you speechless. I think I want to play Michael Jackson speechless now.
You know, because I felt like, you know, we've not lost at the new...
Do you want to cry? Why are you explaining like
that? You realize we are all Man United fans here, right?
I'm not.
Oh, you're not today.
My fence may be tall, but I can sit on it.
Anyways, I felt like going into this game, I felt like we had a very big chance because we had not lost at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in about 5 games, if I'm not wrong. So, you know, we really didn't do very well against Wolves. Man United didn't play very well against Wolves, but we got that lucky goal that Varane got. We're lucky not to get that penalty, that Onana penalty, which I felt like was a penalty. Going into the game against Tottenham, we started very well, created chances, Rashford, Anthony, Bruno, Rashford again. You know,
there was a shocking start, all right? 6 big chances. That's the third most created by a team
I think
Premier
after
League.
Brighton and Brentford, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, and they've not capitalized on any of them.
They scored just a goal.
Yeah.
And it just tells you where the problem is. You know, it was evident last season, it was evident the season before, and it's still there now. A lot of people might say, oh, Man United have finally gotten a striker in Rasmus Højlund. But don't forget that he's a 20-year-old young man that is coming from Italy. And, you know, coming in to fill that big shoes in one of the biggest clubs in the world, the scrutiny is going to be crazy. So I don't want them to throw him into that canal if they've not gotten themselves right. If I were to be Erik ten Hag, I probably would chill with Højlund until we get ourselves. But the thing is, when do we know when they will get themselves? You know, do we want to lose 3 or 4 games?
Talking about someone that does need to get himself is Casemiro. He's looked a different player entirely since the start of the season. Second game in, and he's looked entirely off the pace. But what do you think Man United needs to do in this regard? A new midfielder, of course, has been talked about, Faiga, but what do you do when you have a 5-time Champions League player underperforming for you at the club?
I would say it's not necessarily down to him per se, because you need to look at it that the entire team were not themselves. And if the team is not playing very well, it has a way of transferring itself on the player. I mean, if you look at most of Casemiro's...
You're blaming the entirety of Casemiro's poor form on the team?
Yes, I would say it's a collective, because if you look at Casemiro's best performances last season, you would see that every other player, every other player on the pitch, they were playing well. So I feel it's a collective, and I feel it's unfair to probably pin it down on just one player, because everybody, even from Marcus Rashford, all of them, sorry to use the word, they've had stinkers. So
and one thing that we're failing to understand is Ten Hag attacks with a 3-1-6. 3-1-6 meaning he leaves one midfielder, which is obviously Casemiro alone. Now the problem is, I tweeted something on my Twitter. I was like, I think the players are not fit enough.
X, please.
I think the players are not fit enough because we look outmanned. We are outrun by Wolves. We are outrun by Tottenham, and you know, the space in the middle of the park for Man U at the moment is bigger than the Suez Canal. Space is too much, and I don't think it's just a Casemiro thing. I think, like Kunle rightly said, it's a thing of the old team, the positioning, man marking. You know, Ten Hag wants the team to be a transition team, but for you to play that top-class Liverpool-like 18, 19, 20 transition football, you've got to be so fit, and I don't think at the moment it's that peak.
Good that you mentioned Liverpool. They bounced back from an opening day draw against Chelsea, and I watched that game, and I think they looked like the old Liverpool. Szoboszlai particularly having fantastic Anfield debut.
That's something I wanted to mention. You know, they did very well. I think now, what's his name? Jurgen Klopp used that first game against Chelsea like an example of what he wants his side to play, because you could see them the first 20 minutes against Chelsea, they were fantastic, but as time went on in that game, they sort of lost that composure in the middle of the park. But against Bournemouth at the weekend, I think he tweaked something. He gave McAllister an instruction to play as a 6, which is something he necessarily always doesn't do. Then gave Gakpo and obviously Szoboszlai the opportunity to
basically
to
the same thing they did against Chelsea.
Yeah, in the first 20 minutes. But
Yeah.
towards like after Chelsea got control of that game, they just could not, muster the passes. But one thing I wanted us to pick up out for Liverpool is the fact that Szoboszlai now takes up that right-hand side of the midfield, which helps guys like Salah.
And he did it admirably.
He did it very well.
Very well.
For me, he was the best player on the pitch.
But
and,
let's
a
talk
big shout to Salah too.
Yeah.
He surpassed
Yeah,
Gerrard
we should.
with his 187.
But let's talk about some controversies, some big calls by referees. Szoboszlai's penalty is one, and Garnacho's should I call it deflected? Not deflected, but impeded handball situation is another. And what have you made of those two, Faiga?
Well, regarding officiating decisions, I try as much as possible to be neutral because
You can't be neutral here.
No, I try to
Did
because
you see the Szoboszlai's penalty?
Did you see it?
that Szoboszlai. No, I
Wow.
didn't, but I did see that of Garnacho. The thing is,
Do you think it's a penalty?
I think it is
I
personal.
don't understand the rules anymore.
That is
Because
the point.
if you watch that game, and literally the next day, if you watch the Women's World Cup final,
Yeah.
that was the penalty that was awarded to Spain that they lost.
Pretty much the
That
same.
it wasn't. See, if I was the ref, I'd probably even forgive Kira Walsh for what she did. I felt like, okay, maybe, there's this rule of proximity and making your silhouette bigger. Then you look at what Christian Romero did, and the likes of Michael Oliver and John Moss are saying that is not a clear and obvious error. Did he even call Michael Oliver to go check it again? That's what's the VAR for? We need to understand these things. And they made a mole out of Onana's tackle
against Wolves.
Against Wolves. Spoke about it for about 9 days.
That
Now,
is why
it has happened to Man United, and there's no sniff of it in the media.
that is why I've said that I try to be neutral, because all these things, it's all
You can't be
based
neutral.
on.
You're not polished.
No, no, I have to because for one, it's not going to change. Whatever we say isn't going to change. And I don't know, but I have this theory that I think the Premier League deliberately do this because
Do this against who?
no,
Man United?
like these refereeing calls, because it creates conversation that will keep going on. And like now, we are here now, we're discussing it. So it puts the Premier League front and burner, right? So what better way to spice things up than, just have a little...
But
that's a theory.
I understand you, Kunle, but
Yeah.
I feel like
Are you making a point of the Premier League being scripted?
Well...
that's what I was just going to say, because...
I need you to say it affirmatively.
Okay.
Yes or
No,
no?
not necessarily scripted, but when you, like Kanny said, that some places where,
Maybe
okay, they
typed out
should
then.
go to the pitch side monitor, they wouldn't do
Just
that.
go, like...
Or there's supposed to be a review even.
If there was
But
a
they won't
game-
review.
There
Why?
was a game last season. Sorry, I'm taking us back. There was a game last season, Man United versus Newcastle at Old Trafford.
I know where you're going.
A Sancho tackle.
Yeah, I know where
It
you're
was
going.
clearer and more glaring than what happened to Szoboszlai against Bournemouth. And it wasn't given.
Yeah.
By Quick Pausing. Now, I want to pick out a point. Quick Pausing. That same week, they demoted Quick Pausing to the championship after a lot of row from the fan. That same week, he gave a penalty for a tackle that happened outside the box. Quick Pausing. After that, he came back to the Premier League the following week and gave
If you're watching, just know you're following very well.
and gave a ridiculous penalty to Manchester City against Brighton. I can't forget that game. The first tackle, the first one should have been a penalty on Haaland. He didn't give it. Then he gave a ridiculous penalty call for Bernardo Silva for something that wasn't even a penalty. So how does one man...
Kanny is pained.
No, I have to be, because how does one man in the space of 3 weeks or maybe 2 weeks make 3 bad calls that jeopardize 3 different teams? Then at the end of the week, on Tuesday during their review panel or whatever, you send out reports of, oh, we are very sorry. Does the sorry return the 3 points? It doesn't.
Well, things that sorry do not return. I think when you spend 100 million on 3 different players, one makes his debut and he concedes a penalty, and the other loses a penalty that could have given his team the advantage, I think you don't say sorry to that. But anyways, that was the case. Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. Even Mudryk skying his efforts wide. But what is wrong with Chelsea? At the end of the game, I watched, and Pochettino, all he could just do was put his head in his palms.
Well, I have a theory in sports.
You're always having theories. Are you pedagogic? You want to be one in the future?
Ayo, when we speak about these things, right?
Yeah.
I have a theory in sports. I told you after the Man United versus Wolves game, I told you, I said, if that game went on for a week, Wolves won't score. If you remember when I said made that
But they
statement.
did score in the next game.
I'm just saying that particular game.
Yeah.
That Man U versus Wolves, the opening weekend of the Premier League this season. If that game had gone on for a week, Wolverhampton Wanderers would not still score a goal. It's the same thing with this West Ham and Chelsea. Chelsea
Do you
did.
think Chelsea wouldn't have scored?
Yes, Chelsea did everything right. They just won't win that game. I don't know why. Just some games like that.
It
just happens.
I think West Ham United just wanted it more. The hunger was there. Probably the support from their home fans. But what was the thin line between West Ham winning and Chelsea losing for you?
I think, you know, for Chelsea, in Chelsea's case, like Kanny said, that Chelsea probably did everything right.
They did. I won't even lie.
But
This
the
is-
Chelsea's
I'm not even
problem,
bragging.
but Chelsea's
it was
problem
more or less
at the end
same
of the
last
day,
season when
yeah,
they did a lot of things right and they did not get the end result they wanted.
exactly,
Ayo, did
and
you
that's
watch that
because
game?
I did, of course. I
You saw the game.
I saw most of the second
Now,
half.
sorry, Faiga, for cutting you off. West Ham went ahead via a set piece, which anybody could consider a set piece. Let's leave that. Chelsea came back, pegged them in their own final third, not even half now, final third for almost 20 minutes. Got an equalizer, put out saves out of Areola, got a penalty. Obviously, Enzo's penalty was terrible. He should, I don't know what made him play that type of penalties. I've always known him to be a very good
that's
penalty
shameful for a
taker.
World Cup winner.
You understand? For a World Cup winner, I'm sorry,
very
that
shameful.
I think it
looks
cost
like
about 125
slander
million
more
euros.
than-
Yeah, and for a previously
Constructive
British
aside.
record transfer, that was very
Kunle,
terrible.
did he offend you?
It looks like,
No,
I was just
no,
going
no,
to
I
say, it
just
looks
need
like
to-
slander more than a
no,
constructive assessment.
no, just need to set the record straight. That was shameful.
Then they had a lot of chances. Now, Disasi did what he did. West Ham put one back.
And I have a theory
2-1.
though. I think that guy's a Black Maguire. Let me just hold my mouth. I
don't
wouldn't
know.
say much.
No, I think my own theory is he's slow. I think he's slow, and I think if you want to play 3 at the back, it tells you something. It means each one of your defenders have something that they are bad at, because everybody knows that 4 at the back is the way to go. You know, 2 center backs and 2 full backs. So if you are playing 3 at the back, then somebody's deficient in something. I need the other 2 to cover for it. That is my own theory. So I don't want to go into the Disasi, but Disasi did what he did. West Ham pulled one back. All of a sudden, you know, Chelsea came onslaught of attacks. Sterling did very well. A lot of these guys did well. Moody could have gotten a brace if he understands what
I don't know.
football
He does
is.
everything right except his end
I don't
product.
think he knows how to play football.
I think he does. I think he's a fine
fine
talent that needs to refine his end product.
I think he needs to. I think what Modric needs is that same thing that happened to Cristiano Ronaldo in the 06-07 season. Chelsea should get a particular attacking coach and say, you don't have any job in this
than to score and
than to teach this
create.
boy how to play football.
Yeah.
Because he has pace,
He's got everything.
he's quick, he can dribble, he's shifty, but he just doesn't know how to score. He could have gotten a brace yesterday. Then one thing I
Well, you
heard
can make a case for Adama Traore. I had all of those.
maybe, but I'm just saying. After the game, I think I heard Asu Bank. I don't know if I'm right. I heard Asu Bank speak, and Asu Bank was like, if he had the way of speaking to somebody in the Chelsea team, he'll probably talk to Nicholas Jackson. And I was like, okay, that guy did well. He has done well in the last 2 games.
Done well, right?
For me, he has done well in the last 2 games.
No, okay.
I have little to no expectations for him. Maybe 10, 15 goals the whole of the season, not the Premier League.
Anyways,
he said he needs to stay in the box more. And I feel like that is where their problem is. They create all of these chances, all these cutbacks, all these crosses, but there's nobody in the box to take those chances.
If he's not going to stay in the box, we'll teach him how to. We are here in the box, and